Hey, what's up, my loves? Welcome back to another episode of the It's Fucking Spiritual podcast. Today, we have a special episode that I'm so excited for. We just filmed it. And this is where my friend and fellow coach, Ashley Gordon, she runs the Quantum Coaching Academy. She interviewed me on her podcast, and I wanted to also release it here because it is such a fire episode. And you know, I'm usually sitting here talking to you guys. I'm either riffing on a solo episode or I'm interviewing someone else. And so you guys don't really get an opportunity to hear me get interviewed on this show. And I think it's kind of fun because as, you know, we're deepening in our connection as you are getting to know me, listening to the podcast. It's a fun way for me to get to share other things that I might otherwise not share and have somebody ask me questions about my story. And we talked a lot today about my journey of what the beginning of my story looked like in waking up with self-development and what my journey of becoming a coach looked like, what I've seen inside of this industry. And so this is a really good episode for anyone that is like thinking about wanting to become a coach, but not just that. Even if you don't want to become a coach in any way, this is still going to be a really great episode for you because it's really about taking the leap and what it feels like in the process of creating your dreams. And I think it's a really important conversation to have because, you know, I think a lot of times we think that, you know, people that look like they've accomplished a lot or they've checked off the big goals on their vision board, we can often like think that they have something figured out that we don't, or that they no longer deal with the same human emotions of self-doubt, of, you know, self-judgment, of fears. And that's just not true. At least it's not true in my experience. And so Ashley really asked me a lot about what the behind the scenes process has looked like for my own internal experience of walking this path of, you know, creating the life of my dreams and creating, checking off goals and things like that. Like, what does it actually look like? I even went into what I actually felt about interviewing Marianne Williamson. And she asked me some really great questions that I hope will allow you to feel seen, heard, and less alone on your own journey. And I hope that it inspires you to take the leap of faith and do whatever it is that you want to do, whether that's create a business or, you know, whatever goal it is that you're after in your own life. I think this will be a really, really inspiring episode for you. And also it'll get, you know, you'll be able to hear a little bit more of my internal process and the behind the scenes in a way that I'm not typically asked on a daily basis. So without further ado, let's dive into the episode. There is an element of fake it till you make it in a way, right? Of like, practice the embodiment of that. But the bottom up approach to that is do shit that version of you would do so that you gain the confidence. Don't just be like, I'm confident. I'm somebody that I'm a speaker. I'm a this. Then do the things that version of you would do. And then you build it from the bottom up. We're back, baby, with a brand new season of the It's Fucking Spiritual podcast. Join us each week as we have unfiltered conversations about how to transform your life. Our mission is to usher in a new era of spirituality where you don't have to be all love and light to live a life of alignment. Here, we honor all of it, the profound and the profane, the magic and the messy, and all things that make you human. So let's discuss the truth behind transformation and be unapologetic in our evolution. From manifestation to money, embodiment to energy, and all taboo topics, nothing is going to be off limits. Are you ready to live a life that feels just as good as it looks? Let's get fucking spiritual.
Welcome, Rachel Gibler. I'm so excited, y'all. We have an amazing guest today. The one and only. I've known Rachel for some time, but for those of you who are brand new to her, she is a somatic embodiment coach and facilitator. She's a speaker. She is an incredibly powerful human being. The way she facilitates and leads is unlike anything I've ever seen before and witnessed before. And she has an incredible podcast called It's Fucking Spiritual. And I've known her since the inception of the podcast, like the very start of that podcast journey. And now she has millions of downloads. She just interviewed Marianne Williamson. I'm so excited that you're here. Thank you for coming on the Badass
Thank you
Manifest
so
podcast.
much for having me. Who would have thought 3 years ago, now here we'd be sitting here. Gosh, it's just really cool, the evolution for both of us.
Oh my gosh, yes. I just like I want to kick off with this Marianne Williamson thing because holy shit, you literally just
Yeah.
emailed. You emailed Marianne Williamson. No, they emailed you.
He emailed me.
They came to you
Yeah.
to have Marianne on your podcast. Like, holy shit.
Yeah. It was such a beautiful, monumental moment in my career in the sense that, oh, there's so much that I could say about this, but honestly, it was kind of one of those pinch me moments, but I didn't even like have the chance to soak it in until after it was all done because it happened so fast. So the
Mhm.
way that it unfolded is yeah, I opened my email one day and I have like a notification from my website being like a service is interested in, like, you can enter into your website,
Right. Yeah.
people can like a contact me form. And it said services interested in podcast guest Marianne Williamson. And I look at this and I'm like, that's a fluke, right? Like, there's no way this is real. And then it says like the name of her PR manager and the email. And I started to do a little research. I Googled her, and sure enough, it was like a picture of her with Marianne Williamson from 5 years ago. And I'm like, oh, okay, this is real. And then I'm thinking, I'll just email. I'm sure they sent like 300 of these today. Who knows if I'll hear back? And within 15 minutes, they're like, yes, Marianne would love to come on the show. And yeah, and I only film in person. And I was asking if she was coming to Austin, and she wasn't. So I was like, well, I'll shoot my shot. What if I come to you? And so
Oh,
we
so good.
did. Yeah, I was like, there's moments, I think, in our lives and careers where we get to go out on a limb and get to ask for what we want. And, yes, this opportunity came to me, but I also put myself out there and said, like, hey, I'll travel to you. I would love to take this opportunity to meet her. And it was a really beautiful experience. And also, it was not like what I expected. So I will say that as well.
I would love to get a behind the scenes of your experience of
Yeah.
the whole experience, because I would probably be so nervous to interview
Yeah.
someone that I have looked up to for so long.
Totally. I was so nervous. And you know what? It's so funny, Ashley. Like, I think we have this idea, and I know you have a lot of coaches that are listening to this and that follow you. And there's a lot of people in my, world that will be listening to this as well, whether they're coaches or just anything that you're going for in your life, right? We think that there's this North Star and there's this idea of like, when I make it, then I'll feel like this, or I won't be nervous. I'll be so secure, or, you think you're going to feel a certain way. And that is so not the case for me. And I'll just be so honest, like, I was definitely nervous. It was a huge edge. It was expanding my nervous system capacity. It was like from the time they emailed me to the time I was on a plane, it was like a week and a half later. So it was like boom, 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 happened so fast. And I was hosting retreats at the time too. So it was like life was still lifing.
I was going to say, you were just coming off of your retreat.
Yes, I was coming off of a retreat, and then I had a retreat the following weekend as well that I was co-facilitating at. And so it was just like sandwiched in there, and my team and I flew out, like, and it happened so fast. And I am constantly reminded over and over and over again, every single time that I hit a goal, it's like, it's almost as if it has to land in your body. It's like, that it's happening, but then your nervous system isn't calibrated to it, and you have all of the fears and all the things. And I mean, I have never been more nervous for an interview in my life. And it's funny because personally, I'm probably hard on myself, but I do think it shows in the interview. I'm like more rigid. I'm more like, a little bit.
And like, were you confined? I didn't watch it yet, but I'm going to watch it. Like, it's on my list to watch.
I just felt rigid. Like, yeah, usually I like to have just like open dialogue, open conversation. I mean, I memorized her bio. I'm like literally curling my hair in the hotel room, like an hour before we go over there, just repeating her bio over and over. I'm like, you got to remember every single thing. And, I put a lot of pressure on myself. And I actually think it would have flowed better if I had just like, Rachel, you're here for a reason. Trust yourself. This is a human being. And I know we'll get into this because I talk a lot about pedestalizing people in the industry. And I think it's so easy. I mean, when you have somebody that's like Marianne Williamson, who has been in this game for 40 plus years, she is one of the biggest names. I mean, shit, she ran for president. Like, she's.
Yeah, I mean,
an incredible woman. And I think it's natural to be like, whoa, and I learned time and time again, don't pedestalize people. These are just people. She was so kind. She was so lovely to me. She gave me a personal email. We're connected now. And I've gone back and forth with her team quite a bit. And we did a second interview on Instagram Live, which I did put on my podcast. And I felt so much more relaxed. I didn't prepare for it at all. And I think it was like a much better interview. So it just goes to show like it's never going to feel like how we think it's going to feel. We're always human. Every single time that you expand your nervous system, I don't care if it's your very first post as a coach on Instagram and you're so nervous. It's the same feelings that I have now, expanding in my capacity in the ways that I am. And, I really had to stop and like let it land in my body and say, you know what? You're here for a reason. You got here for a reason, and you get to trust yourself. And it's something that I'm still learning over and over and over as I continue on this journey. Like I'm still very human in all of it. So yeah, there was a lot of lessons. I had to learn not to pick myself apart after either and be like, I could have said that better and all of that stuff.
Right.
So,
oh my God. I've so been there. Been there after an interview that I was nervous about, just replaying every single thing I said in my head the whole night long.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's always better than you think it is, of course, because you got this. And I love that. Like you're here for a reason. You are. You're totally here for a reason. I think that's so important for people to hear. And I think it's different. It's a different dialogue than a lot of people might have. Instead of like, why was I chosen or why me or this or that? But more like, no, this is real. This is correct. This makes sense. Of course they reached out. And kind of regulating to that frequency, like really aligning to, yes, I am here for a reason. 100%.
Yeah. And it's a practice. That's why I think it's so important to have this conversation, Ashley, too, for anybody listening to this. It's like, I know for me, especially when I was getting started, I'd look at people and be like, oh, like, obviously it's for them. Like they just have it in the bag. And that's why I think it's so important that we talk about like, no, I'm so human. Like that idea of, oh, of course I'm here for a reason and this is happening for a reason. I can trust myself. That is a practiced state. That is, I had to regulate my nervous system so much. Like I had the normal hooks of the like, oh, I didn't do that enough. Oh, like, how did I end up here? Oh my gosh, I can't, like all of those thoughts. And I've just learned over time because I have so many tools at this point. I've been practicing for so long. Oh, this is one of those moments where I'm meeting my edge, where I'm expanding my capacity. Let me tap into my breath. Let me tap into my body. It's okay that I'm nervous. And then trust the unfolding of the process of it. And, quiet the noise even after I had noise, like, oh my gosh, it could have been better. So I just think it's so important that people are let into this side of creating your dream life, creating your dream business, whatever that looks like. It is still such a human experience to be like chasing after your goals and dreams and having really cool things happen. There's still the dichotomy of like all of the human stuff that you experience and emotions alongside of it. So I think it's just so important for people to know and hear that side, as well.
100%. That's why I wanted to get your inner workings and your inner world behind the scenes of it, because it is so inspiring and you are human at the same time. And I think it's so relatable too, because at every single step of the journey, this comes up. Even in the very beginning, I would love to go back to the very beginning for you. When you initially said, this is my calling to help people in this way, to help transform lives and step into that, I'm sure that same feeling was there. And however many years later, it's still there, showing up in a different way, in a different capacity.
Yeah.
So take us back. Take us back to Rachel, who was like, did you have a defining moment that was like, I'm meant to be a coach. This is my calling. This is what I'm here to do. Or was it a progression?
It's interesting. I have it both. I've had a few defining moments and it was a progression and an unfolding. And, to your point, like I had the same fears back then that like still come up in my body in the same way now. The only difference is I'm much better at handling them and recognizing the patterns and all of that kind of thing. But back then, like I didn't have any tools, and I can kind of start like with my story because to understand what made me want to coach, you have to kind of understand my background and my history. But for me, I was not raised with any belief outside of myself. I was not raised religious. I was not raised spiritually. So I would have considered myself relatively atheist as like growing up because we had no framework for anything.
Mm.
And that was fine growing up. I had never even heard the term self-development, mindset, nothing. I had wonderful parents, but they were just very like your stereotypical white picket fence. Like my dad worked and was pretty like hard ass and, pushed me and do well in school. And like, that was it. Right. And when I was 16, my whole world turned upside down because my father was killed in a freak accident.
Mm.
And it was like so traumatic and such a tragic loss. And it completely ripped out the rug from under me and my entire normalcy of life was ripped away in that moment. And not having a framework or a belief outside of myself, when you go through something that's so tragic and traumatic, it is so, when you don't have anything to hold on to or belief in something greater, or belief in a greater power, it can be really damaging and really traumatic, because then I just felt like, well, there's no God, there's no universe protecting me, there's nothing. I'm out here, I'm completely alone. And it, sent me into a complete downward spiral and depression, and basically fully self-sabotaged my life for about 8 years after his death until my early 20s.
Mm.
And that looked like, everything from drug and alcohol abuse to abusive relationships to abusing my own body to just severe, severe depression and anxiety. And throughout that long period of dark night of the soul, I'll never forget the day my dad died. I was sitting next to him and I had this like knowing rush through my body. It was almost like a voice that, spoke to me, and it said, "This won't be all for nothing. One day you'll make something of this story." And it was just like this rooted truth and knowing. And I'm 16 years old at the time, right? So I'm like, I feel that, but then it is fleeting. And then I,
Right.
go into my spiral. And then throughout that 8 years, I would have moments of one day you're going to help people with this story. So I would like take the shot I knew I shouldn't take, or I would do the action and thing that I knew was really bad for me. And then I would have that knowing of like, one day you're going to tell the story. And it was almost as if I was like gaining strength. And I knew that I was like in the middle of like the depths of despair. And one day I'd like be writing about it or sharing about it and helping people in some way. And then when I was 23 years old, I was working a corporate job that I hated. I was, just going out with party friends and blacking out on the weekends and had absolutely no direction in my life. And it started to completely eat me alive. And then I myself was in a freak accident, and it forced me to take 3 months medical leave from work. And in that time period, it was like 2 weeks after the accident, and I had the knowing again, but this time it said, use this time wisely, and none of this will be all for nothing.
Mm.
And I like grabbed my computer and Googled how to be happy. And that's how I found self-development. I mean, I started from step one.
How to be happy. Oh my goodness.
Isn't that so sweet? Yeah. And so I laid in bed and I studied, and I got into self-development and mindset work and books and entrepreneurship. And I started studying. I was like, okay, is there anybody that's been through anything relatable to me, and have they gotten out of it, and what are their stories? And now looking back, what I was doing was I was finding expanders of people that have walked the path, which actually teaches your subconscious mind that you can do it as well. I was doing this inherently and naturally, but I kind of ripped the Band-Aid, and I ended up going back and quitting my job and breaking up with the relationship. And I very much went head first into this life and spent 3 months in full isolation and just soaking in knowledge and really like defining who I wanted to become. And that was when it was born that like, okay, this is my moment that I'm going to look back and say, this was the time that absolutely changed my life and created the foundation that, I'll build my new life upon. And that was the beginning. That was the very beginning of it. And then there was many, many things that I'm sure we can go into, but that ended up, now that was 6 years, almost 7 years ago. And now my whole life has changed, and I do teach this work, and, it's really beautiful to see the evolution.
It's amazing because your story, I heard your story the first time when you spoke it on stage. We were both speaking at a summit together, and that's when we met for the first time. And watching you speak it then, it landed in my heart so deeply. I felt so connected to you, and we connected and we were like, we're friends. Like we just
Yeah.
immediately were drawn to each other. And hearing you tell it again from my experience, just listening to it again in this like new era that you're in of all the growth that has happened even in the last just 3.5 years is just I have chills all over my body. Like it is so
Mm.
fucking beautiful that you have created what you've created in such a short amount of time, even though you've been doing this work for a long time.
Yeah. Thank you. I
Yeah.
appreciate that.
It's really
Yeah, it's so
inspiring.
wild. Yeah, thank you. It's so crazy. And that was the beginning, right? Like that was the
Yeah.
listening piece. And then we have a whole journey of the last 6 years and everything that I've learned. But to your point of what we were bringing up, first is like, I had all the fears at the time. Like I was like, oh my gosh, I'm going to change my life. I'm so excited. And then all of a sudden it's like, wait, okay, I think I want to become a coach. I want to like start. And I actually didn't become a coach first. I actually
Yeah.
started just sharing my life and journey on Instagram, which actually ended up being a really beautiful part of my story because it wasn't like I went and tried to monetize it. It wasn't like I went and tried to coach immediately. For me, I really just started sharing from my heart, sharing my journey, sharing what I was learning in self-development. I started to really gain connections online. And I did that for a couple of years. And it wasn't
Wow.
until, it took me about 3 years to be like, actually, I'm going to start a podcast and I'm going to become a coach. And during that time, I was gaining skills, gaining knowledge. It wasn't
Mhm.
like I wasn't doing anything. I was investing in the courses, investing in the certifications, investing in the programs, getting myself in rooms with people that were doing the things. It's
Yeah.
so funny. My first ever thing that I went to was Angie Lee's Pays to Be Brave. Were you there?
Yes.
Did you
No, I
know? No,
wasn't.
you
I
didn't know.
wasn't.
Yeah, that was 6 years ago this month. And I met her at a
Wow.
meet and greet. And it was like, she was like one of the first people that ever got me into, podcasting and just like listening to them. And
Yeah.
I went to that event and told the women that I was with, at the time, and I think this is really important for anybody listening to this who also wants to change their life or wants to build a business or wants to become a coach or grow their coaching business is I always leapt before I was ready. I always did
Yep.
the thing that was really scary. I always thought I was going to throw up. I would always post and like chuck my phone across the room and be like, I cannot believe I'm doing this right now. And I flew to that event and it was a women's entrepreneur event. And I was not an entrepreneur at the time.
Right.
Everybody had like in their Instagram. I had no Instagram account. I was literally like, I don't know what the fuck I'm doing in this room, but for whatever reason, spirit's leading me here. I wouldn't have used that language at the time, but that's absolutely what was happening. I just felt called, right? And Angie, it was like saying on a podcast, it's this weekend, come. And I booked it and flew out 2 days later and just like went on a whim. And it changed my life because those women that I was with, I told them my desire to share my story. And they said, you do not leave here until you post your first photo. And my
Oh
very
my
first
God.
photo, yeah, on Instagram is at Angie Lee's event. And yeah, I met her at a meet and greet, and it's hilarious because now she's a really good friend of mine. And we were like together all day this, one of the days this weekend, and we're
Oh
talking
my
about a
God.
collab, and she's come on my podcast. And so it's just so funny how like life unfolds when you say yes and when you do the scary thing and you leap. And I've just done it over and over and over again. It was when I launched my first business mastermind. And then it was when I launched this podcast. And the second that I actually claimed it and went all in, and it took me years of building my confidence to do this. And I
Yeah.
don't think anybody listening to this, it doesn't have to take you years. I went quote unquote slow, but I went slow to eventually go fast because I built my foundation so solidly.
Amen.
And yeah, and then I launched this podcast 3 years ago. It took off. My business really took off. And I've had quite the iterations of and many, many learnings inside of this industry. It was like I was on the outskirts for a long time looking in, listening to the podcast. Now all of a sudden I was on the inside of this industry. And then I started to dismantle all of that. So there's just so many pieces that I know that we can go
Ooh.
into, but that
Yeah.
have really, yeah. And I feel with where I am now, I'm sitting in a more embodied, more confident, more self-assured place than I've ever been in my life. And yet still getting so nervous to interview Marianne Williamson. So it's the dichotomy of the whole human experience of all of it. And
Yes.
it's just been such a beautiful journey. And I'm just so, so grateful.
I love how you just described that, where you were on the outskirts of the industry and now you're on
Mhm.
the in. And I feel like that is I've never heard someone describe it that way before, but I feel like it is such a good way, a visual for people, because I think it just goes to show that anyone who wants it can have it, and you
Mhm.
have to leap before you're ready. And even as you were saying that, I'm thinking to myself, at the event that we met at, Rachel literally invested in a freaking like step and repeat whole booth situation, vendor setup
Yeah.
for her podcast. Like her podcast, I don't even think it actually launched yet. It was like
No,
launching.
it had, but we were 2 or 3 months in. I was at
Okay.
25,000 downloads at the time, which like to launch and be at 25K, I think, no, I was like 2 months in. It was a pretty good launch.
That's amazing launch.
Which was great. However, I want to speak to that for a second because it was the energetic behind what I did. And now I can look back and, okay, there's a difference in, oh, maybe I'm like going to start a little podcast. Like maybe I'm going to start a business and like, I don't know. And is it going to work? I had all those thoughts. I was like, who the fuck am I? Who's going to listen to this? Oh my God, should I not put fuck in the title of the podcast? So nervous, like all the things. But then I just decided, you know what? I'm going to claim it. I am going to launch this like it is a big fucking deal. I'm going to launch this like it is the greatest, biggest podcast that anybody's ever seen. And there's a different energetic between I'm a coach who has a podcast. Neither is wrong. And I just want to say this, either you can do either. There's a different energetic between I'm a coach who has a podcast for the funnel of my business. And this is like an arm of, how I market. And this is a part of the top of my funnel versus I am a podcaster.
Yes.
There's a different energetic in the two, and neither one is wrong. It just depends on what you want. And for me, I was like, I'm an internet personality. I am a podcaster. This is what I do. This is what I claim. I had 3,000 followers at the time. Okay. And I just made it like it was the biggest deal. It was like a huge booth and we had like pictures set up and I owned it. And I honestly think that like, that's such an important piece of we have to own the energetic of what we want, because how we start the thing and the energetic in which we start the thing is how it carries. And so I started it like a big deal. So everyone else reoriented like it was a huge deal and it was a big show. And I became a podcaster. And I'd say this is the thing that I'm known for. And I coach and have my programs and all the things. But for years, when people said, what do you do? I'd say, I'm a podcaster.
Oh my God, I'm obsessed with that. I feel like that is such a good, energetic strategy. And I'm curious how you were able to maintain that energy while also kind of challenging the thoughts in your head that were like, who am I to do this? All the imposter syndrome that comes up along the way, because you know what I do. I'm the founder of QCA. I train people to become coaches and help them gain the skill sets, but they still have such imposter syndrome. So it is like a huge battle, I feel like, between the voice inside that's like, who the F are you? And the other side of you that's like, I am a huge coach. I'm an industry leading thought leader. I am a podcaster. I'm an author, like all of that. Like, how did you balance that?
I love that. Okay. At the time I would have said I didn't.
Yeah.
It was like my
hindsight is everything.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. No, like it was a roller coaster getting here and owning it. And also I'm in the reinvention process of myself even currently. And what I've learned is like, we never really arrive. We're always like moving and reinventing. And I'm currently in the process of reinventing what the show is, who I am in this season, in this iteration. I took a year off of the show last year for the deepest excavation of my life, deepest transformation I've ever gone through. And what I'll say, though, to answer that, and what I've really actually been feeling into now is that there's a top-down approach to this and there's a bottom-up approach to this. And the top-down approach is what we typically hear, which is like, act as if, decide what it is that you want, claim it, say that I'm a podcaster, I'm a speaker, right? And yes, do all those things. I did those things. There is an element of fake it till you make it in a way, right? Of like, practice the embodiment of that. But the bottom up approach to that is do shit that version of you would do so that you gain the confidence. Don't just be like, I'm confident. I'm somebody that I'm a speaker. I'm a this. Then do the things that version of you would do. And then you build it from the bottom up. That's how you
Yes.
build your confidence, right? And that's what it actually means to be embodied and not doing this like affirmation fluff stuff, which is fine and great. And I think it's the first layer. But what we actually need to do is be creating embodied leaders. And the only way you're going to become an embodied leader is do shit that actually makes you feel worthy and makes you feel really fucking proud of yourself. So actually show up for the thing that you say that you're going to show up for, and do it over and over and over again. And just bring your fear along with you, because it's not going to go away until you continue to act over and over again.
Oh, I love that so much. It's so true. The top down, bottom up, obsessed with that. And that is back to what you were saying before. You always leapt before you were ready, meaning you did the thing. You brought that into your body. You didn't just act as if it was true. You actually made it true until it fully was actually integrated into your identity.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, no, you do have to leap. You have to do the thing that's really scary, follow the thing that feels alive and true for you. You're never going to like sit there and you can absorb all the information all you want, but it's not going to do anything until you actually start taking action. And that's how you're going to gain the confidence to do it. And you have to do it over and over and over again. And you just keep leaping. Like, I'm still leaping. The Marianne thing, leap.
Leap.
First time I hosted a retreat, leap. I mean, and every time I've done it, I'm like, oh, fuck.
And right, 100%. Right. I feel the same exact way. And then the things that you do to invest in that on the back end, like when we did that first speaking event together, that was one of my first speaking events. I hired a videographer. I invested in that because I knew that I wanted to do more of that. I am a speaker. I am going to speak on more stages. So of course I'm going to have like the proper, videography to support that, because that's part of the embodiment of it.
Yeah, exactly. Same thing with my studio. It's like I invested in getting a full studio setup. And what do you know? The moment that I do that, all of a sudden I have a dream guest list, and like I've checked off a bunch of them now at this point, and every single one of them has come to me. I don't do outreach. So it's just like one of those things that it's just, you raise the frequency, you own it, you claim it. And now like I live here in Austin, and I know, because many people have told me this that end up coming on my show, people come into Austin to do tours, and they'll ask their, high-level friends that are in this industry, hey, whose show should I go on? And so many people that have come through my doors are like, you were the first name that anybody said. And I'm like, because I fucking owned it,
Yes.
Yeah. So, and anybody can do that. Anybody can do that. I was like the girl that was like so fucking afraid to do any of this. It didn't have an Instagram account for 3 years because she was so scared to like make a post. So anyone can do this.
I want to go back to that version of you who posted your first post and like started to put yourself out there on social media, even before you were selling anything. You started sharing your story. What was that like breaking through? Was it the fear? What was the fear for you? Because for me, it was the fear of being seen personally. I was so afraid. I held myself back for years before I felt comfortable being seen. So I can relate with that a lot.
Yeah. Yeah. For me, it was the same. It was the fear of judgment. And I had a lot of stories, because overall it was the fear of judgment of like, people from high school followed me, people from college followed me, but it also was the fear of I don't fit in the box of who people believe me to be, because, and I had so much shame at the time, because I made my first post when I was 24 years old, and ages, like I mentioned, ages 18 to 23 were really 22, but 23 were really challenging for me. And I was the fun party girl, because that was a mask for the broken, depressed, traumatized girl. And so for me, I had made this persona in college of like, I'm the wild, fun one. And I'm like, would be getting drunk all the time. And I was I was honestly pretty unhinged in an early age, which I know a lot of people are, but I carried a lot of shame for that. And so for me, it was like, who the hell am I to start speaking on changing your life and self-development and mindset when every single person follows me has seen me blackout drunk at a bar? And I had so much shame about that. I knew my heart and I knew my truth and I knew I was always a good person, but I was a mess. And I understand why I was a mess, but like, I felt like people were going to make fun of me and be like, what the fuck are you doing? Like, you're the hot mess. right? And it took me years actually to let go of that. Even after posting online, there's a lot of friends that actually did judge me, that actually did make fun of me. Almost all my college friends made fun of me when I started my podcast. And they're not my friends anymore. And so there
Wow.
was a lot of shedding of, letting go. It was like I really had to commit to my heart and to my North Star and to my truth and also to my greater reason of why I was doing this. And for me, I had been so broken for so many years. I had gone through so much grief and so much loss. And I always wanted people to feel seen, heard, and less alone. That's always been my North Star. And as my business has grown, I'll always try to rework the business and what's the thing I teach now and da, 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 da. Like as I get like so many more skills and now I do somatics and now I do nervous system and those are all great in modalities. But when I really get back to the core of the truth of it all, is that I want people to feel seen, heard, and less alone.
Yeah.
And that's what it's been from the beginning. I could literally cry. Like
I know I'm getting emotional.
yeah, that's it. And it was my heart and that was my truth. And every single time that I calibrated to that, that mattered more than anybody that was going to make fun of me. And so then I just had to keep going. I'm like feeling that version of myself right now. I'm also speaking to the version of me now because the last 2 years of my life, my business has blown up, my podcast has blown up, and it's been so fucking hard in
Yeah.
so many ways. It's been beautiful. I have everything I wanted on my vision board almost. And it wasn't the key that and it's been really hard and challenging. And I've understood that oh, this is just like my soul's path of evolution. And so even as I'm saying it now, I'm reminding myself of the truth of that's actually what it's about.
Hmm.
So anyway, thanks for that.
Oh my God. Wait,
Thanks for letting me ramble.
No, that was like so beautifully said. And that I know for a fact, like everybody listening to that right now is you're speaking to their hearts and their truth and awakening that in them and letting them know that helping people and being on your mission of this transformation for yourself, but also to serve in the world, it's not about where you've come from, right? Like your past doesn't define you in what you're capable of. It's really about the wisdom that you get from
Yeah.
all of those experiences. And yeah, the fear of being judged and all of that is so real. It is so, so, so real. And everything else that you're creating is so much bigger. Like you're like, I can take it. Like I can take that judgment, especially now, right? Where you are now. Like you can take it and you can alchemize it. And there's people listening that are at the very beginning of their journey and they're like, yeah, I've changed my career 7 times and I feel like I'm a fraud. So now I'm switching into this. And who am I to do this now?
Yeah.
Yeah. And just like notice those of you listening, the voice that's judging yourself,
Yeah. Yeah. All judgment is self-judgment. Briefly interrupting this episode for a very special announcement. If you are someone that has been loving this podcast, that you love this work, you really are ready to deepen in your own feminine embodiment journey. You are ready to expand your capacity to receive abundance and what you desire in your life. And you want to do it all in sisterhood. And you want to travel out of the country. Drum roll, please. I invite you to join us in Costa Rica in May of 2025. We have officially opened the doors for our Costa Rican Expanded Woman Retreat, where we are going to spend 5 days and 5 nights together in the jungle of Costa Rica and just go really deep together in sisterhood. So if you have desired to attend one of the It's Fucking Spiritual retreats and you want to join us in Costa Rica, it is going to be such an incredible time. There's going to be organic food. There's going to be deep workshops and so much bonding and sisterhood and beach bonfires and excursions and all of the things. And honestly, you guys, every single time that I have taken the leap and gone to something in person, my first ever retreat as an attendee was in Costa Rica. And that is where this podcast idea was actually born. And so every single time that I have chosen to take the leap and I've gone somewhere in person alone and nervous and ready for my expansion, there is so much transformation on the other side. It is honestly how I have built my life, has been from taking multiple days to go really deep, to receive reflections in sisterhood, and to really claim what I want out of life. And I invite you to do that with us if it's something that's calling you. This is by application only. So definitely go and fill out the application in the show notes. There's going to be so much information about the retreat, the dates, pricing, all of that in that application, and go and take a look. And if it's calling you, definitely apply. Even if you're on the fence, definitely apply, and we will review your application. And if you have any questions, you can email us at support@rachelgibler.com. And we hope that we will get the chance to meet you in Costa Rica in May. And there's one more piece that I want to say, right?
Yeah.
Is like the people who were so afraid of judging us on our journey, and we're judging ourselves in the process. Like, I know you can't see it now, but what I will say is if I catered to the people that were around me at 24 years old, and I kept myself in a box because of those people that were around me, I would not have my life now. No. And so many people are like, but I'm afraid of losing them, but I'm afraid of losing the relationship, but I'm afraid of da. Listen, you might. Like, I'm not going to sugarcoat it. You're going to walk a path, and there's going to be people that are going to celebrate you and that are going to come with you. And there are going to be people that don't. And that's a part of walking this path. And that's not an easy pill to swallow, especially when we have attachment, right? To people, to relationships, to ways of being. And at the same time, what I can tell you from this vantage point, and I've been walking this path for 7 years, I have the best fucking people around me. I could cry talking about it. I have more friends and more community that I know what to do with, and they are exquisite human beings. I look up to every single person that's around me. I inspire the people that are around me. We have very deep conversations. We all build businesses. We have different conversations around money and relationships and like all of it. And we're all here for like the depth of life that we could. And we all want to create impact, and like the types of conversations that I'm in. And this is my normal reality now. And it has been for a couple years, which is amazing. And I'm so fortunate. And I'm so grateful. And I also recognize that I created that because I said no over and over and over again. And I chose to be alone over and over and over again. And I know it's really scary when you're sitting in the vantage point of like, oh, I need to change my life and the shedding. And it was scary for me too. And I wouldn't trade it for anything, because where you're going, when you hold true to the North Star of what you want to create in your business, in your life, in your relationships, in your community, like everything else has to reorient. And you might go through periods, you will go through periods of shedding and loss and letting go. And that's a part of the human experience. And who you become and who you will be surrounded with on the other side is going to blow your fucking mind. And so I just want to say that because that is my reality now. And it's the coolest thing ever. I'm so grateful for the people around me.
I can 100% vouch that that is true. Like true. And there's so many people who are like, I wish I could have one friend that's like-minded. I wish I could have one friend that thinks the way I do about the universe and the way life works and building this thing. And there's so many people waiting for you on the other side.
Yeah. And
I'm
it's so hard to
hear
like
that.
Yeah, it's so hard to believe it when you're in it, right? Like I was the same. I had party friends. That's all I had at the beginning, and I was really, wait, those aren't even like my real friends. Or I had like one friend. And even then I was like, I felt like I was constantly outgrowing people or just constantly not aligning or not resonating. And so many people are like, oh, but I have the one friend. Look at like, where are you attached to your own smallness?
That's such a good question.
Like really feel into that. Like what are you afraid of letting go of? Because I promise you, there's an entire world waiting out there for you, and you're not putting yourself in the position to go meet them or meet like that version of yourself. And so people are like, oh, where do I find it? Where do I go? Literally, there's a million things. Like listen to different podcasts. There's so many retreats. There's so many like events. There's so many certifications. Like QC, like where you're going to meet so many people. And meet a different version of yourself too. So you absolutely can do it, and look at where you're giving yourself excuses if you're sitting here being like, but that's not my reality. It's like, well,
right. And that's the grounded version of when we talk about parallel realities, and we're like, we are literally sitting in the quantum field where anything is possible right now. There is another reality where you have a huge community of people that are supporting you and serving you, and you're serving them and all the things. And it's so beautiful and it feels so good. That is a reality that is possible. And you have to actually make it happen. You have to walk towards it, run towards it, invest in it, I'm curious for you looking back, because I know that you've invested so much into your expertise, your craft. And I'm wondering, like, what role do you think that's played for you in your success?
Oh my gosh. So it's been monumental for me, honestly. And it's so interesting, right? Because there's this dichotomy that we see in this industry. And it's like, leap before you're ready. Like, take the leap, do the thing. And like, oh, you can start without a certification and da da da. It's yes, all of that's true. I left before I was ready. I got myself in the rooms before I was ready. I, started before I was ready and took on clients and things like that based on the frame of where I was at in that moment and helped people to the degree that I could in that moment
Right.
years and years ago. Right. And you will rise to the level of your own commitment.
Mhm.
So what you have to look at, what am I really here for and who do I want to be and how do I want to embody and what frequency do I want to come from in my business, in my as a coach, in what it is that I'm creating, whatever that looks like for you.
Mhm.
And for me, there's a much different energetic of like, oh, I'm going to like do a couple little programs and kind of like put myself out there versus like, I'm going to claim this, I'm going to own this, and I'm going to do everything in my power to become as confident as I possibly can in this arena and in mastery in this
Yeah.
arena. And that is a completely different energetic and who you will be and who you will attract, the clients that you will attract. I mean, it's night and day different. And so for me, investing in myself was so important. Actually getting certifications in the things was so important. And deepening the level of my own embodiment in my practice of the work was the number one thing.
Mm.
Because we can regurgitate information. There's a lot of noise on the internet. There's a lot of noise in this industry. There's a lot of noise of people trying to be coaches. And I think
Yeah.
it's incredibly important that we have leaders that operate in integrity, that walk their walk, that are really, that really be embodied in their practice. Yes, we can still be human. Yes, I'm still human. I don't get it all perfect. Like, oh my God, but I return back over and over and over again. And it was so important for me to make sure that I was, that I was really practicing mastery of this work. Um, and I want to say one more thing on that, on that.
Yeah.
Because I know I'm like going off on a tangent. I'm like on my soapbox right now.
Love
But
it.
something I learned over the last 2 years that I deeply learned. There's a difference between knowing information and having an embodied integration of the information, where it is in your body and your being. And I have worked with a lot of different coaches as a student. I've been in
Mhm.
a lot of different programs as a student. I've taught a lot of different things. And I've been in a lot of spaces now. And I am 100% certain that anybody that is holding a container for you, you are always calibrating to the frequency of the facilitator, whether you know it or not. So you are calibrating to the embodiment of that facilitator.
Mm.
So if that person is just regurgitating information and it's not embodied, you might not really understand, but on a subconscious level, your body will feel it. And it lands completely differently in the systems of the students, like in the nervous systems of the
Mhm.
people that are in your space. So it is so important that you are constantly in mastery of your craft, because take this seriously. Like, if you are somebody that wants to be a coach, right? Like, you have people's lives that you're helping, and it's beautiful, and yes, it's inspiring and all the things, and like, people are calibrating to the frequency in which you're operating. And so it's incredibly important that you are confident in what you're doing. It's incredibly important that you're embodied in what you're doing. And so for me, like, getting the certifications, practicing the things, having the tools, having the frameworks, and being incredibly discerning around, now where I'm at is I'm very discerning around what spaces I'm in.
Yeah.
And being around people that walk in integrity and in mastery. And it's so important.
I literally could not have articulated that
Mhm.
better than what you just said. I think it's so
Mhm.
beautiful and so true. And I always say, like, it's not the certification, it's not the piece of paper that you need. You need to know how to process with someone and how to take someone through processes and modalities and be able to hold them in such a way that they can come undone and actually have a really, really deep, powerful release and be able to feel safe enough to
Mhm.
go there, because you're dealing with their trauma. You're dealing
Mhm.
with their deepest inner critics, and we cannot take that lightly. We cannot
Yeah.
take that lightly. And there's nothing that bothers me more when people are out there on the internet saying, you don't need a certification. You don't need to know how to coach someone. That's absolute bullshit. That's
Yeah,
absolute
it
bullshit.
is. Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
no, you do. You have to know how to hold the space, how to hold the human,
Yeah.
how to hold the energy. There's so much there, and it's so nuanced, and it's an art. So
Yeah.
I'm so glad that you said that, because I don't think we could be friends otherwise.
I
Just
know. Well, that's why we are friends.
I'm
That's why
just
we are
kidding.
friends. Because I
No,
know.
I know, because you walk in so
Yeah.
much integrity in what you teach and the people you hold. And you have sent some of the most amazing people into the Quantum Coaching Academy. I'm so grateful for
Yeah.
them. And that just who you attract just speaks so highly of the vibration and frequency
Mm,
that you are in. And
thank you.
I feel so grateful to like be part of that energy with you. So it's
It's
amazing.
so beautiful. And I feel so safe sending people to you. And I love, for, anybody listening to this with Quantum Coaching Academy, if you guys haven't picked up on it, a lot of my students end up going to Ashley, because what ends up happening is so many people want to do this work. And then
Yeah.
they end up, and I have a lot of like, just different somatic embodiment courses, like for your own body and being. And then you wake up to the power of what this work is. And it's like, oh my gosh, wait, I actually want to teach this. And it's so important then that you gain the confidence to be able to actually do it and show up, because you're going to show up more if you have if you feel really embodied and really confident in what it is that you're teaching. And
Yeah.
I've watched my students go through my programs, have massive internal transformations, and then they wake up to the fact that they want to teach this, and they come to you, Ashley. They end up doing the certification. They love it, and I have a couple of my students have gone through your program, and they've been in my world for about 3 years. They've come to my retreats. They've done
Yep.
multiple programs of mine, and I've just watched them continue to grow, expand. Now they have businesses themselves.
Yeah.
It's like the coolest thing to witness. And it's fun to have a partnership with you in this way too, because
I'm
we can
so
go back and forth, and yeah. Okay, I am briefly interrupting this episode because if you have made it this far in the podcast, then maybe you are resonating with what we're sharing. And if you are somebody that has even an inkling of a desire to become a coach, to start your own business, to walk the path in your own way, whatever that looks like, if you are inspired by this episode, then I wanted to invite you into Ashley's free event that she is doing on October 30th next week, all about becoming a confident coach. It's for 3 days. You're going to get to be with her and hear a lot more about what she does and what she creates. And honestly, because I know Ashley, she's going to totally pack it full with just so many nuggets of wisdom that will hopefully inspire you to step into your next confident coach era. So whether you are already a coach or you are an aspiring coach, I think this is something that you could definitely check out, and that would be really, really helpful for you on your journey if you really resonated with the show today. And as I mentioned in the show, I have had many students go through Ashley's Quantum Coaching Academy. It is the only coaching certification that I personally endorse and work with because of Ashley's integrity, who she is, her heart, her values, and how incredible of a program this is. I have seen my students absolutely flourish after going through her program, and I could not recommend it enough. So if you're looking for a coaching certification, definitely go check it out in the show notes and join her free 3-day event next week on starting October 30th, and you'll get a little bit more of a feel for her style and for what it is that she could teach. And hopefully it will inspire you to step into your own confident version of leadership. The last thing I do want to presence for you, if you are listening to this episode after the date has already passed, you still can go check out the link below, because she will send you a replay, and they don't start their certification until January. So definitely get in on that. And if it's past January when you're listening to this, because obviously this will be up, then still definitely check out Ashley and QCA for one of the later rounds. Again, I can't highly recommend her enough. She's amazing. And I know you'll get so much out out of the Confident Coaching 3-day free event that she is putting on. So with that, now back to the episode.
It is so fun. It is so fun.
Yeah.
And I think you just hit on something that's really important too, which is, for me, the key to my success was getting all these skill sets and tools under my belt to be able to look someone in the face and say, I know I can support you. I know I can help you, to have that confidence and confidence within myself, to have that knowing that I can do this with someone else as a partnership. And watching the students that you've sent into QCA, watching them build their businesses outside of the programs and outside of the work that both of us have done with them is so exciting, because I think about the ripple effect always. Like the ripple effect is rippling. It's rippling.
It's so rippling. Okay, I actually know that she would be fine. Danny, one of both of our students, she was my student and sent her to you. I'll have to tell her, give her a shout out.
Shout out, Danny. We love you.
Danny, we love you. Laura, we love you. I know. I've got to watch them just like absolutely transform in their own embodiment and who they are. And also like the ripple affected, to your point. Danny literally messaged me last week because like I love, like, whether somebody's like my student at the time or not, like I stay connected with so many of my students.
Same.
You know? Because it's like, now we're like in it. Now we're in it for life. I'm like so invested in your success and who you are and who you become and all the things. And Danny's come to multiple of my retreats. She's done every single program I've ever had. She's done your coaching certification. And she messaged me and she said, I just wanted to let you know, somebody reached out to me and said I was so inspiring to them. It was like, she gets this a lot, obviously, because she posts and everything. But she told me this one specific person like said that, she's paving the way for her. And she was like, that's exactly what you did for me, and getting these tools and like coming into my world. Then she ended up, coming into your world, getting the certification. And she literally said to me, the ripple effect that you create, because it's what I'm creating, it's what it's creating for her. And she like sent me this whole long message of how grateful she was. And it's just
I'm gonna cry.
So cool. I know, it's amazing. And like circling all the way back to like what we were talking about at the very beginning, it's like, this is so possible for anybody who wants to change their life or who wants to make impact or who is moved in any way by either one of our stories and what we've been sharing. It's like, Danny didn't know that she could do it. Laura did, like, everybody has the same like feelings. And then we're literally watching these women transform in real time, transform their lives, transform the lives of others based on the path that they're walking. And it's just, I think about it all the time when I think about like the thousands of people that listen to my podcast daily, which is so crazy. Yeah. When I think about that, I'm like, God, most people that we impact will never actually even really know. We'll never know their name. We'll never know, and all of us have the ability to do that. Whether you decide I want to be a coach and I want to become a podcaster, I want to do this, or it's like, because you transformed your own life and now you have a different level of like embodiment and grace in the way that you interact with people and the person at the grocery store. It's like you have the impact and like you can create so much like love and just transformation for people by the way that you move through the world. And it's just so, so cool. And I just like want to speak that into anybody that's listening to this, is like, you have such an impact. And if this is on your heart, like, leap and do the things, because it's like, you can absolutely change your life. We've seen it for ourselves and we've seen it for our students.
Amen. Amen. There's two things on that I want to highlight. One is I received a message recently, because we were circling back to like the integrity piece that we've been sharing about, you've been sharing about. I got a message from someone recently as well that was like, I was checking in on her and how she's doing and just cheering her on, because they are our students and we're in this for life with them.
Yeah.
And she said, thank you so much. She's like, I've been in so many containers with so many different people, and you're the only person that still cares about me long after I've paid you.
Oh my God.
And that really, like, it hurt and it felt so good at the same time.
Totally. Oh my God. That's such a beautiful compliment to receive, and so amazing. And just such a testament to who you are as a human. And like, it's so important. Okay. You know how we talked about being on like the inside of the industry versus the outside of the industry? The amount of shit I have seen now being on like the quote unquote like inner workings of this inner circle. I don't know what you want to call it. Oh my God. The amount of people that it's like, this is a number. I'm like, what are you in this for?
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
you can, like, run a business and make money and stuff, but that's like not the core of why I'm in this. And it's just like it pains my heart how much I've seen that. And that's why I'm like, be so discerning about the spaces that you go in, the people that you listen to, pedestalizing
Yeah.
people because you never fucking know. And like so beautiful that you received that reflection. And it like does really hurt my heart because I have fears that like people aren't going to get into this work because they're going to be burned by people that are in it for the wrong reason. And I'm like, no,
Yeah.
we need more people that are like in integrity, doing this work from the right place for the right reasons. I get like very passionate about this subject. So
I really think that like the people that care the most about that and embody that and walk in that knowing and truth that like that is the difference maker, that is what's going to change the world. And people that are in it for the wrong reasons, they will eventually fall away. I believe. I
they
believe
will.
they will
Yeah.
fall away. And everybody
Yeah.
else that actually cares about helping people will remain standing
Yeah.
in
100%.
this industry.
Yeah.
And like
And we're
we
already
are
seeing it.
we're already at 100%.
It's
You're
already a
already
thing.
seeing it. And
Yeah.
if you're on the outskirts looking into this industry and you're like, wait a minute, there's so many coaches, there's so many people, is it oversaturated? Actually, not at all. Like we need, like you just said, we need more people who are in it for the right reasons. I feel like this is The Bachelor talking about being here for the right reasons.
But it is though. It really is. Yeah. No, I say this all the time because people always ask me like, oh, yeah, like, is it oversaturated? Or people are like surprised when I'll like promote their stuff or like share, I'm like, lift them up or share,
Yeah.
it like if my program's not right, I'm like the first person to be like, hey, go check out this program. Like I'm not even affiliate for them, but like I'll just like, I'll share
Yeah.
things. And people are always surprised by that. And I'm like, no, we need more people doing this work until we have more of the planet like waking up to our own power, our own sovereignty, our own ability
Yeah.
to change our own life. Like we need so many people doing this. And I feel like to us, and at least I won't speak for you, but for me, I feel like I'm in a bubble because every single person I'm around is like
Yeah. Amazing.
a walking embodiment of this work. And everybody I'm around is like teaches this work. But that, if we look at the greater whole of society and the planet, it's like we're a very, 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 very small minority. If you're listening to this podcast right now, you are literally on the leading edge of change.
100%.
Yeah.
Yes.
So we need more and more and more and more people doing this work. And if you can calibrate to the core of your being of the reason why you feel called to this, if it's because you want people to feel seen, heard, and less alone like me, if it's because you want to empower people in some way, like you get to trust that that's on your heart for a reason. You get to also trust that when you are calibrated to like your own integrity, your yes, your true reason why, and it is a reason that is greater than you, that will carry you through every time without a doubt. If you constantly recalibrate to that, that's your North Star. Like you literally can't go wrong as long as you just don't quit.
That's it.
Mhm.
Mic drop. Thank you so much for sharing so beautifully and so eloquently. You're such an amazing speaker. You're such an incredible
Thank
energy.
you.
I just love being around you so much.
Thank
And
you so much.
I want to know what are you currently manifesting right now?
It's interesting because I feel like my answer would be different. Right now, I'm not actually like, I have my manifestation list and I want X amount of months or da da da. I did a lot of that for a long time. And I have things that obviously I'm creating this year in my business, this coming year in 2025. Right now I'm taking a 3-month sabbatical from, yeah. And so for me, what I'm actually manifesting and creating, it's a deeper level of my own embodiment, which is very like abstract because it's not like for me, it's not checking the boxes at the moment of like I want,
awesome.
It's more so what I'm really working on right now is relationships and my relationship with men and my own feminine embodiment practice. And and so I'm like in a really beautiful container with a man right now. And I'm really practicing like sharing my feelings, showing up in my feminine and like really practicing the principles that I've been learning over the last year. And so I wouldn't say it's like necessarily like I feel like what I'm manifesting from that is like my queen era coming online and landing and integrating in my being.
Mm.
And it's not an like yeah, it's not a concrete thing. I feel like I checked a lot of the boxes of like, I wanted 50K months and then I wanted this and then and I did it all.
Yeah.
And I'm like, what do I really want? It's like, I want to feel so,
You're embodying your
so
queen.
solid. Yeah. I want to
Yeah.
feel my queen, and she is here and she is arriving. Like really what it is I'm manifesting becoming a wife, but it's not like this is that person. Like
Right.
there have been many
It's
pieces in me that are coming online.
yeah.
And so that has actually been my main focus has been that. And I'm in a really beautiful container right now with a man that I'm getting to practice these things with, who's not going to be my husband. So
Obsessed.
that's a whole other podcast. And also I think I'm going to go to Egypt. So there's that. Mm-hmm. And go be with the priestesses in the pyramids and stuff. I feel like I have a whole other second life that's like this tantrika priestess.
Yes.
So, yeah. So that's my behind the scenes life at the moment.
I felt like that was almost like edgy for you to say, like, and share.
It
Like,
was.
this is what I'm manifesting. Like, it's vulnerable to say what you're
Yeah.
manifesting. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's not
But I'm glad.
concrete. Yeah.
Right.
Which
And
is
it's not concrete,
too.
but I think that's beautiful because it's a perfect example that actually manifestation, we think it's concrete, but it's always the feeling and the embodiment of
Exactly.
the thing. Right.
Right.
So it always comes through you first and then to you.
Yeah, that's but for me, like I focus less on my manifestation lists now. Like I definitely do
Same.
sit down and like write things out, and I'll do that, I don't know, quarterly, maybe a little more, it just kind of depends. But like I focused so hard, and this is the last thing I want to say on this, but just for people listening, I focused so hard on getting the thing and checking the box of the vision board. And it was like, I want this big, beautiful, white, brand new home. And I want with my podcast studio in it. And these are the people that I want on the podcast. And I want consistent X amount of months in my business. And I want my team running this way. And I like did all of that. Like I'm sitting in the studio in the house.
Yep.
And all of it's great. Like I got this stuff. And like, I'm still just as human. I met all the people I wanted to meet. They're still just as human. Like all of that for me. Yes, I want nice things and I want to have like, I love like glamorous stuff. And I love to, I love to have experiences and all of that. And I love my home. But for me, it's like all of that lost its allure because I think once I got the stuff I wanted, I thought I would feel differently and better. And I arrived and just realized I was still very human. And so for me now it's become like, how do I become a walking embodiment of the next level version of myself? And I don't even want to say next level, the truest version of myself. And for me, the last 2 years I mentioned that they were really hard for me. It was because I feel that I went from girl to woman and I'm re-meeting myself in this era of like deep self-responsibility, deep like queen energy. And like I kind of like cringe at the queen king thing, but like also it does feel true. Like there's just this era of like, who is the wife within me? Who is the business owner within me that operates with deep ease and trust? Who is it like, and for me, it's all about the feeling now. And I hold that through like the practices and the things that I'm doing. And I really marinate on like, I feel into a lot of like my husband's energy and that kind of thing. And I know we talked about this on the phone last week.
Yeah.
So yeah. So it's not like I want a ring on my finger and I want to become a wife. Like I'm done with the timelines. I actually don't think he is super close to me at this moment. And I don't want to say that either because I know it's like you put it far out, but like I can just feel the truth of that. Like I just know where I'm at, and where I'm at is like the perfect place to be in my embodiment because I'm getting ready for this next level of my life. And it feels really true and really exciting, but it's all about the embodiment for me now in this.
You're in this like play training container for what's coming.
It's so cool. Maybe I'll talk about it at some point, but yeah.
I know. I'm like, we need a part 2 on that.
I know. He's epic.
Oh,
so
that's awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for being here and sharing. I just freaking love you so much. I adore you. I'm so grateful for you.
I love you too. Thank you so much for having me.
Where can everyone find you, connect with you, learn from you?
Yes, at Rachel Gibbler on all platforms. I'm primarily on Instagram, and then of course my podcast, It's Fucking Spiritual. So come find me, come hang out. If you found me from this episode, please send me a message. I love to connect with you guys, and
Yeah.
yeah, come listen to the show, and you'll hear all the things that we've got going on.
It's so funny because when we were recording this, I was having a flashback to when I interviewed you a couple years ago.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, when I lived in Houston before
Yeah,
everything.
you lived in Houston and you were in a completely different relationship, and you were having breakthroughs. Like, we were talking and you were like, "Wait, I think I'm having a breakthrough." Do you remember that?
Classic. I mean, I remember our conversation. I'm sure I was having breakthroughs at the actually, I think I do remember that.
You connected a dot just
Yes.
with
Oh,
whatever I
I
asked you.
do.
I forget what it
forget
was,
that
but I was
I
just
forget
like,
what that was
"Wow."
about. I know. I'm like, gosh, sometimes I'm like, I feel like I'm just in this constant journey of an evolution. And I'm like, such is life. But sometimes I'm like, God, is it ever just like, does it ever chill? I don't know.
I
It
don't
hasn't chilled
know.
yet
I don't
for
know.
me.
It's almost like, for me, like the dishes, they're never they never chill. They never
It doesn't
stop.
chill. This is so facts. It really is. It really is. I'm like, oh, my soul chose this. Here we are.
Yes.
Great. And I
Great.
love it.
We're here for it.
And it's
We're here
great.
for
It's amazing.
it.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you for being here.
Thank you for listening to the It's Fucking Spiritual podcast. I am so glad that you're here. And if this episode resonated with you, I invite you to share this with a friend that you feel needs to hear it. And if you are really feeling the love and support for this show, this podcast thrives off of your listens and your reviews. So I would love if you could leave us an honest review. We would love to hear your feedback, your thoughts, your questions, and it helps us get this podcast in the hands of more people and would mean so much to me to receive your support. So thank you.